All right, so today we're going deep into something that's becoming more and more important these days, digital inheritance. You ever think about what happens to all your stuff online when you're, well, not around anymore?
Yeah. It's not exactly a dinner table conversation, is it? But it should be. We're talking about your crypto wallets, your online accounts, everything that makes up your digital footprint. It's like a digital ghost, and someone's got to be in charge, right?
Right, and it gets complicated, doesn't it? It's not like you can just put a sticky note on your computer screen with a password and call it a day.
Exactly. Traditional inheritance laws, they weren't built for this. A study recently estimated that something like $5 million worth of cryptocurrency is lost every single day because people pass away without a plan for their digital assets. 5 million a day. That's an invisible graveyard of wealth.
Okay, now you're talking my language. 5 million a day? That's a lot of digital dust bunnies piling up, which is why this company, CHARONIUM, caught my eye. They're not just talking about the problem. They're claiming to have a solution. And the core of it is something called, get this, CHARONIUM fragments.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach, to say the least. In a world that's going more and more digital, they're bringing back the tangible, think physical security keys, but for your digital life.
So let's break this down. CHARONIUM's main thing is helping you pass on your digital assets, like if you have Bitcoin, Ethereum, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's the core of it. They're all about making sure your crypto goes to the right people. But they've also got this service called Charonium Legacy. It's specifically for lawyers, legal professionals, to manage their clients' digital inheritance.
Makes sense. Get the legal eagles involved. So how does it actually work? Is it some crazy, complicated algorithm?
It's surprisingly straightforward, actually. They've broken it down into 3 steps: safeguard, restore, and transfer.
Okay, I like simple. Walk me through it.
So first, you safeguard. You get these physical keys, the Charonium fragments, and you entrust them to someone you trust. Could be your lawyer, could be a notary, someone you know will do right by you.
Like a digital executor of sorts.
Exactly. Then, if something happens, the unexpected, that person can use the fragments to restore access to your digital assets. And finally, they can transfer those assets to your beneficiaries using Charonium's app.
So far, so good. But we keep dancing around these Charonium fragments. What are they exactly?
Picture like high-tech dominoes. Each fragment holds encrypted information, pieces of your private keys, which are basically the passwords to your crypto kingdom.
Hold on. Private keys. I think we might have skipped a step for some of our listeners. Can you break that down a little?
Sure. Think of a private key, like the ultimate password to your cryptocurrency vault.
Disappear.
You lose that key, you lose access to your crypto, it's gone, poof,
Oh.
vanished into the digital ether.
And Charonium takes those all-important keys, breaks them up, and puts them on these fragments.
That's the gist, yeah. But here's where it gets really interesting. Each fragment has these things called haptic plates. They're engraved with unique patterns, and you need at least 2 out of 3 fragments to recover the full private key.
An extra layer of security. I like it. But, and maybe this is just me being paranoid, but don't physical keys come with their own risks? I mean, I lose my house keys more often than I care to admit. What happens if you misplace a Charonium fragment?
Well, yeah, losing anything important is never ideal, but think of it this way. Traditional safety deposit boxes, they're not exactly immune to theft or loss either. Charonium's argument is that by splitting things up, requiring multiple fragments, they're actually making the system more secure. Like, you wouldn't keep all your cash in one place.
Okay, diversifying your risk, I get it.
Yeah.
So back to the fragments for a second. On their website, they mention different types, like fragment 12.
What does that even mean? Is that like a security rating?
Not exactly. That number refers to seed phrases.
Seed phrases. Okay. You're going to have to elaborate on that one. All right. So a seed phrase is basically a human-readable form of your private key. It's a bunch of words, usually 12 or 24, that you can use to recover your crypto wallet if you, say, lose your phone or forget your password. Think of it as a backup key. And the cool thing is, Charonium's fragments, they work with these seed phrases. So it doesn't matter what kind of crypto wallet you have, it'll still work.
Ah, so it's like a universal adapter for your digital afterlife. I like it. But speaking of the future, Charonium also mentioned something about expanding into neo-brokers and tokenized properties. Do they explain what that even is on their website?
It's a bit vague. They're still working on those features, but it gives you a sense of where they're headed. Basically, neo-brokers often deal with parts of assets, like owning a small piece of a company or even real estate. Imagine if you could use Charonium to manage those digital records, make sure they're transferred properly.
So you're saying instead of a physical deed to a house, you'd have a digital token,
Yeah.
and Charonium would hold the keys.
Exactly. Tokenized properties, it's a whole new ballgame. Everything's on the blockchain, secure and transparent.
That's a lot to wrap your head around. I mean, if it takes off, it could revolutionize how we think about property ownership.
Mm.
No more paperwork, just digital handshakes secured by Charonium fragments. Pretty wild. But they are still a startup, right? Do they have any, I don't know, street cred in this world?
Oh, they're legit. They actually just won the Austrian Blockchain Award, which is a pretty big deal in the industry. It means experts are taking notice.
Awards, digital dominoes, revolutionizing estate planning. These guys are busy. But let's bring it back down to earth for a second. To the person listening who's thinking, this is all very interesting, but I'm not exactly swimming in Bitcoin. Why should the average person care about any of this?
That's fair. But it's not really just about money anymore, is it? Digital inheritance, it's about your entire online presence. We're talking about photos, videos, emails, all those digital breadcrumbs we leave behind.
All the accounts, the subscriptions, your social media, it's basically your digital DNA at this point.
And without a plan for all that, it can become a real headache for your loved ones down the line. Imagine trying to piece together someone's digital life without a map.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Not fun.
Right. And that's where this whole conversation about digital inheritance becomes relevant to, well, pretty much everyone. It's less about being a millionaire and more about taking responsibility for your digital footprint.
So it's not just for the crypto whales among us. Everyone should be thinking about this.
Absolutely. It's a whole new way of looking at estate planning for the digital age. Charonium is offering one solution with their fragments and all, but the bigger takeaway is we all need to be having these conversations.
So for those of us who are listening and thinking, okay, I get it, digital legacy, important. What do I do? What's the first step?
Start simple. What digital stuff do you have? What accounts really matter? Figure out who you'd want to handle it all and how.
Write it down somewhere. Maybe tuck it in with your will. Future you and your family will thank you.
For sure, Charonium might not have all the answers, but they're definitely shining a light on something we all need to be aware of.
It's like they're saying, hey, your digital life, it matters too. Just like you wouldn't leave your physical belongings a mess, it's time we give our digital stuff the same respect.
Well said. It's all part of the story we leave behind.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. But remember, even in a digital world, it's the human connections that really matter. So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those digital ducks in a row.